My name is Lenny Anderson. I have enjoyed a lot of freedom since I started a business when I was only 12 years old, which has given me a lifelong of opportunities. 72 years ago, I grew up on a very beautiful, peaceful river bluff farm that overlooked the Mississippi River Valley with no government interference. About 8 miles in the distance, you could see the city of St. Paul Cathedral on a distant hill. I vividly remember the trees, flowers, and frogs, which I enjoyed very much. Sadly, the frogs are long gone. I fear that the flowers are going to disappear next. These are freedom flowers, and in my lifetime, I have seen. These are the freedoms I saw when I was a young person, and one after another, they were picked off. You know, it might have taken a year in between here, but in my lifetime, I saw the government come by with more regulations. The freedoms were just stripped off one at a time, and sometimes they just stripped, and then the last thing, they just went like this, and they just stripped more freedoms away, and then they cut off the flowers, and the only things left is this remnants of a little stem, and I fear, what are they going to take next? Because the freedoms that I saw as a young person are completely gone. It's a completely different world. So, as the evil and corrupt government bureaucrats have pulled off the freedom leaves, destroyed the roots, leaving only a bare flowerless stem. About 5 p.m. on 12/22/11, I came home from a doctor appointment and found the lock on my gated property. My property is 2.5 city blocks long, and it's gated, and the lock was cut off. I went to my backyard and found that $175,000 worth of priceless treasures were stolen and destroyed by toxic, tampering thieves employed by the St. Paul City Department of Safety and Inspection, known as DSI, who violated a pro-1999 court order that specifically states that I can have 3 boats, trailer, camper, RV, snowplow, and 5 cords of wood on my property. Was to be stored on a Class 5 gravel surface parking area that was approved in 1998 by the St. Paul Zoning Department. In spite of the fact that this parking site had been grandfathered and approved for 14 years, the city destroyed everything that was in my backyard savings account. And in my lifetime, it took me my whole life to put it together, and I've worked as a self-employed inventor, entrepreneur, and many of my favorite and most valuable and saleable possessions were stored in my backyard savings account for use when I retired. I have a target on my back, as I have been tampered, tarnished, tattered, torn, and I'm tearful and fearful by the outright theft and destruction of my valuable and necessary possessions with no notice or due process, in complete violation of my 4th and 14th constitutional rights. I want to bring to your attention the revealing and appropriate word tamper, which by dictionary definition states to alter or interfere with by malicious intent. As a 72-year-old disabled Army veteran, I'm deeply concerned that the callous, corrupt, and inept, outrageous lawlessness by the city, if left unchallenged, checked, and uncontrolled, will lead to the downfall of our society. How can the government get away with destroying, in our case, a series of abatements, $300,000 worth of lawnmowers, building materials, tools, picnic tables, lawn chairs, lawn sprinkler, shovels, wheelbarrow, bicycles, snowplow, furniture, antiques, boats, trailers belonging to myself and Carol Berg? I have spent in this last year more money on legal bills fighting the government this year than I receive by Social Security. The following Thomas Jefferson quote seems appropriate today. The two enemies of the people are criminals and government. So let us tie the second down with the chains of the Constitution so that the second, meaning the government, will not become a legalized version of the first, common criminals. The era of lawless and corrupt government must be immediately reined in and replaced by a constitutional system of checks and balances, which have been in place for a long time, but they have been forgotten about and overlooked and like they don't exist anymore. In my neighborhood, there's 2 Century Farms that are owned by direct descendants of Thomas Jefferson. And when you tell them about this, they go into a rage of what's happening in this country. They cannot believe the lawlessness in our country.